Welcome back to Everyday Elevations, the podcast where we transform ordinary moments into extraordinary outcomes. So today I'm excited because I have a very special guest, and his name is Chad Wooters, and he's a dedicated lifelong learner with a knack for turning complex information into actionable insights, possessing a blend of traditional and cutting-edge skills ranging from public speaking to AI-driven solutions. His integrity and a Mount Everest level commitment to his work make him a trustworthy and innovative leader, ideal for driving your business forward. So with that, Chad, just love to let you tell people a little bit about what you do. And then I'm excited for this chat because AI is such a huge prominent thing today. And I would love to educate everyone a little bit more on it. So I'm excited to pick your brain.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm Chad, and I just love to help folks. So whether it be business owners, entrepreneurs, friends, a lot of people have business ideas, and taking those business ideas, making them into a plan versus a dream, and then actually making steps to go achieve those goals is one of my favorite activities. I happen to use AI a lot to do that nowadays, but that's kind of my gambit. So yeah, Jason, have you gotten to play around with AI a lot, or is this? What's your experience with it?
So I've actually used AI quite a bit. One of my friends got me hooked on it, and this podcast is created from AI. The whole structure of it came from AI. So now, because of AI, I can create a brand new podcast in under 48 hours. We're talking from just the creation to editing to releasing.
Wow, that's phenomenal. The technology today is alarming in what it's capable of. And what's even crazier is it's really just getting started. We're just at the bottom of the exponential growth that technology is going to be experiencing here in the near future.
Oh yeah, it's a very exciting time, and it's insane how much AI can expedite everything, which is again why I'm so excited to talk to you, because I know that you have knowledge that I don't have and some of the audience doesn't have. So with that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how someone could get started in AI. What are some tips that might be for the beginners first and foremost? And of course, we'll dive a little deeper.
Yeah. It's for the beginner, my recommendation, as silly as it sounds, is just go download the app and create your free account. Most folks don't get started with AI because they're scared of it, and it's not that scary. And when you start to use it, when you start to get familiar with it, you learn the nuances of what it means to use AI, what it means to dialogue with AI. There are certain things that you can do or say in specific ways that get you better results. And you won't really know what those are, aside from taking a class, until you start using it. For me, it was actually funny. I had a business coach I was working with who said, Chad, I've been telling you for months to go do this AI thing. You better get on it because you're going to be left behind. This is over a year ago now. And for me to be able to take that and say, okay, let's go take a look at this. Let's go try and learn it. I didn't take any classes at first. I just said, you know what? I'm going to try it for this. I'm going to try it for that. One day I said, I wonder if it can help me with the shopping list for my smoothie diet I want to try. It did. It made me the recipes. It gave me instructions on how to make it. And it also gave me a shopping list. And later, I was just curious to see what it could do. It made me an estimated caloric intake per smoothie based on the recipes provided. I used that tool, AI, to make smoothies and mix them up for about 8 months and lost 20 pounds. So you never know. I mean, it doesn't just have to be business, but I would highly recommend download the app, and anytime you have an idea or a question or you wonder if AI can do this thing, then just go ask it to do the thing or ask it if it can do the thing. And you'll be surprised and alarmed at just how easy it is to actually use AI for those different tasks you're looking to accomplish. And then from there, the world's your oyster.
See, I love that. I actually haven't used it for smoothies, so now I want to play with that. I've used it for a couple of little one-off random things. Looking into travel, I use AI for that. Mm-hmm. Especially now they have Kayak integrated with it, a paid platform version of it, of course.
Yep.
But yeah, that's incredible. Now you mentioned asking it questions. How would you go about if you're trying to get specifics on something, how would you go about asking it? Now, of course, I know how to prompt everything, but for those who don't know how to prompt.
Yeah. Asking or prompting GPTs or any AI, whether that be Claude or if using AI in a third-party connection like Notion, for example, it kind of is an art today. There is a science to the structure of these prompts, but there's also an opportunity for you to practice general communication in it. The number one rule in prompting is that you want to ask the AI or use sentences that only have one possible meaning. So this would be, if you were to ask the AI something that could have multiple meanings, you'll find out real quick that AI is going to take one of those alternate meanings and run with it. And this is usually what happens when we say, this is not the result that I wanted. If there's something in your output that the AI gave you that is not what you wanted, well, then there's two possible causes from it. It's because you weren't specific enough or you didn't include that exclusion criteria. And this actually has impacted the way I communicate with my team a whole lot, because the same thing occurs in the workplace. When I'm communicating with an individual, I say, I want to do X, Y, or Z, and they go do that. Now, occasionally they add in a couple steps or they do things a little bit differently because I didn't give them specific instructions on how I wanted that output to look. And AI is really no different. So the best possible practice when prompting is do your best to make sure there's one possible meaning in your sentence or your question or your request. And if there's something you didn't like that the AI did, well, then this is your opportunity to actually go in, and the next time you use that prompt, add in the specifics about what you didn't like. So let's say you're doing a social media post. You say, hey, I would like a social media post on how to make smoothies using AI. There you go. Perfect example. And it does X, Y, and Z. And if you ever do this, you're going to know that you're going to get a title. You're going to get almost the same first sentence as the title. You're going to have exorbitant emojis everywhere. You're going to have hashtags that don't make any sense. And you're going to say, wow, the content is okay. The emojis are too much and the hashtags are just gross. So next time you do that prompt, if you're using the free platform, you'll say something like, hey, AI, I want a social media post around, lifestyle tips. And I want you to do this post using no emojis and also creating no hashtags. Now, again, you've gotten more granular, more specific with that request. You should see the AI listen to those exclusion criteria. And now you have a better post potentially that you're able to use and modify with a little less work. And this is the process of growing in your prompting, is telling it something, seeing what you don't like, observing that, and then growing in your clarity of what you're looking for. And if you can get good at that, well, AI can really do everything except for math for you. There's certain AIs for math. ChatGPT is not it. Don't do that. It's a trap. Yeah.
I fell down that rabbit hole. I was tested during one of my math classes, a finance class. I was like, let's just see what it does. And pulled the answer up and my professor was sitting there by me because he was curious too. He's like, I told you it wouldn't work. I was like, calm down, Adam. Like we kind of knew it wasn't going to, but
right.
Also it's not like you can really use this for your class. That would be cheating.
Right.
But
there is actually a way, and I built a whole course around it on how to use AI as a tutor, even for math. And it's interesting. There are math AIs out there. So for using math or solving equations, just look up math AI. You can go to ThetaWise is one of them that we recommend. And then I'm forgetting the other, but we can find that link. The reality for ChatGPT and these LLM models or large language models is that they're trained around English, not math. That's why they break. And so if you want them to give you good math advice, well, then you have to talk about math from a linguistic standpoint. So you have to say, please explain this problem to me step by step. And if you do that, the simpler the math, you actually might get some decent results. The more complex math you go into, you're going to get significantly riskier in its accuracy and it being inaccurate. But by asking it to actually explain the steps or the process or show its work, if you will, you actually can increase it to accuracy. I apologize, accurability is not a word. Accuracy to a significant ratio, just because you're asking it to engage in the way it's designed to think as a computer, which is linguistically.
Interesting. See, now I want to play with that when I get done with this, because I haven't really tried to use math, because like you said, it's not very intuitive with that. So I kind of want to play with that. That is fantastic. One of the things I noticed when you're talking about prompting, and I'm just curious if you do this as well, because it's something that I was personally taught. I was taught to talk to ChatGPT as if though it's an employee. So let's say, for instance, if you want to do a content marketing strategy. Well, for me, I would tell them that, hey, you are an expert content marketer, and I give them a list of all the different tools that they know, and then it builds from there. Okay. Is that something that you tend to do as well, or you get a little more complex with it?
I have done that a lot, and I'm not confident that it has a significant role to play. Now, all the experts are going to tell you online that it does. And I'm not trying to say that they're wrong. I do believe it does have an impact, because what we're doing with that statement, it is one of the pieces of prompting, and that's we're creating context. The AI is trained on terabytes of data, literally terabytes, and thousands upon thousands of gigabytes. And when we look at that, we need to give it as much context as we can to give it the ability to give us the prompt that we need. So lately I've been doing it, and I've been seeing great results with it, but I was getting a lot of great results before that point. And some of that comes from building custom GPTs or building custom bots and building out kind of this baseline programming on the back end. That said, even without that, with the right prompt, with the right exclusion criteria, with the right formatting, you can really get tremendously far with that if it's structured correctly, if it's got that purpose behind what it's looking for, and you're clear on that. Because what that identity prompt is doing, or that role prompt is doing, is it's creating the context for the outcome. It's helping make it clear what you want the AI to do. And if you do that without saying that you're an expert marketer or you're a expert businessman, it will potentially get similar results. So it does increase your results. I don't know to what ratio, and if you don't do it, it's not the end of the world, but it is considered a best practice when prompting.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I appreciate the clarification. Again, like you said, a lot of people online, even some of my mentors that taught me AI would mention that. I was like, all right. I was like, I didn't used to do it. I'll try it now. And sometimes it really does help, like when you're using frameworks for content marketing strategies, for example, because then it breaks it down to whatever. God, there's like, I think there's like 100 different frameworks I post in there. I just have a prompt now that I have built in. But yeah, that was, you mentioned something else though that caught my attention, because this is something that I'm still trying to get a little bit more savvy on. You mentioned chatbots. I would love to learn a little more about that, as I'm sure the audience would as well, because I know I've heard about them. I know they're built, and even ChatGPT has bots built into it that you can actually click onto. I would love to learn a little bit more how you go about building one of those and what you use them for.
Yeah, so there is a couple different ways to build them, and I'm working right now on defining a level system, because it's interesting. If you look up AI chatbots on the internet, and now that you've listened to this podcast, you're probably going to start getting ads for them, so you're welcome. But if you go through and you look up AI chatbots, you've got everything from the little chatbot in the corner that just is a very simple question answer function. It's something that you may or may not be able to type into, but you're going to be able to be given options to navigate a support portal. You've got opportunities to go into a freemium kind of offer of a chatbot where it's just dialogue, where you're talking with an AI that's bringing in information from the website, all the way up to these higher level ones that are taking custom information, custom programming, doing everything from supporting customers to generating leads to quoting solar prices. And when you look at the chatbot, it's really an almost infinite potential for a lot of business owners today. If you want something to just answer basic customer support questions and be a resource, because chatbots are becoming kind of an expectation for businesses today, that you have some kind of feature that allows people to get immediate information from you, then there's very simple ways to do that. On the other side, if you're someone who wants to build out, I've got a couple friends in coaching clients who are coaches, like myself, they are friends who are doing coaching in specific industries, specific niches where they are really focused on, some of them in the tattoo space, some of them in dental. And for them, they actually want to provide a freemium offer where they can say, hey, you get to access me and my ability as a coach in a chatbot. And so now they get to show people what their coaching looks like without having to spend a dime of their time actually talking to them. And in that instance, now we've got a lead generator that builds value in your website that allows people to come in and test it out. And there's two versions. There's the public version, which is a light version of that, right? That says, oh, hey, look, looks like you've been talking for a little while here. I want to continue coaching you, but this is actually unlimited use of this tool is provided in our membership or in our coaching. And so you have that. Now you've got their lead information. The bots can actually put them into MailChimp or whatever your email marketing sequence is. They can send them off to your sales folks as well. And so when we look at what bots can do, it's a wide range from simple question answer to scrubbing your website and answering questions all the way to these custom built monsters that can do pretty much everything. I mean, it's kind of like the Cadillacs of cars, back in 10 or 15 years ago when Bluetooth wasn't included in every car. Cadillacs came with a phone in the car, just attached, right? Those types of things are what we see in the AI place. You've got everything from the VW Bug to the Cadillac and in between. And so that was kind of a big answer to your question of what is an AI chatbot, but how do you build them is a little trickier. If you want practice building an AI chatbot, the best place to start is actually with custom GPTs within OpenAI. Now, I will tell you, there's not a lot of great information out there for free on how to build these custom GPTs. And so you're going to run into quite a few different pieces of information. But the cool part about the custom GPTs is that you can upload your own knowledge base and kind of sort of train your own AI. And training is technically not the correct word, but it's a great descriptor of what we're trying to accomplish. And by doing that, we can say, kind of like what Jason was saying earlier, by giving it a default prompts, you can say, hey, you're a social media expert. Everything you do is under the guise of your social media expertise, and you're going to be using X, Y, and Z tools to provide assistance in these tasks. And so now you've got a custom GPT that's sole purpose is defined, and you don't ever have to include that into the prompt again because it's built into the actual custom chatbot. So when we look at that as an example, that is one of those tools that we can really use to help automate our work or scale our work. It's something I've done in my own work to say, hey, I'm going to replicate my voice in certain capacities and say, here's my social media GPT, here's my email writing GPT. And now I can kind of go give them an input, and it can really help me take things that would take way more time and get started on the process a lot faster. So to get started, custom GPTs, OpenAI is the place to go. There's literally entire courses on these things. I'm building one myself. So it's a longer process, but learning to prompt is where you start. The second part is going to build some custom GPTs so you can learn how to build knowledge bases and build your own AI interface. And then from there, there's a lot more advanced steps you can take in terms of purchasing a software and plugging it in and doing workflows and automations and pieces like that. So, Jason, I just threw a ton of information at you. I'm sure everyone stopped listening by this point. Questions, comments, concerns, or cries of outrage?
No, I mean, it makes sense to me. I didn't realize I was actually, think about while you're talking, I didn't realize I was actually creating my own customized GPTs in the first place. I did go to the customized GPTs in the past, so it didn't really click in my head that I was creating the GPT bots.
Yep. If you do that, if you do the create a GPT, then you are. Because it'll say, what do you want to name this? And that's basically building a GPT based around your knowledge base, if you upload a knowledge base. So the problem is that everyone's doing this, but no one knows what they're doing. And so just like prompting, because it's a consumer-driven tool, people don't know how to build effective knowledge bases. There are people who are paid well in several six figures in Tech Valley to build knowledge bases, to curate this information. And there's this false assumption right now that you can just take every transcript, you can take every textbook, you can take every thing that you've ever read, upload it into this custom GPT, because now they do 50 or 100 documents in their knowledge base, and the AI is going to be able to see all of that information and then use it. And I understand why OpenAI and why a lot of these AI companies haven't educated people on that, but unfortunately, it's just not the case. Depending on the level of subscription that you have, these AIs have a limitation in terms of tokens. And if you're on the free version, I believe it's 5,000 tokens. If you're on the paid version, it's anywhere from 25 to 50,000 tokens, depending on the levels that you have. But you max out on these tokens, and those tokens include a couple pieces. The tokens include the amount of the prompt, the amount of knowledge from the knowledge base, and the system's response. And then if you do more than one message, it also includes any conversation history that you have. And so when you're talking about building a bot, you're actually looking at balancing that formula, those four pieces, because you got to have enough context from the conversation, but you also have to make sure that you're getting the correct amount of knowledge in the knowledge base. And you have to have a strong system prompt that allows you to get the right information at the right time. And the same thing with your day-to-day usage. If you're looking at throwing every single thing into your knowledge base, just know that you're not going to be able to use all that because your character limit is maxed with these tokens. And so that, again, is one of those big things, and where I've actually had people come to me and say, Chad, I want you to mark your help in building a custom GPT, because I understand I understand the technical, like how to upload a document, all that kind of stuff. But now as I'm learning more about this, I understand that I need a dialed in knowledge base that's usable by the GPT, that is concise enough to give all the information that's there while also allowing it to be within that character limit that's required by the tokens. And I'll just so you guys know, you guys can look up the current maximum token count based on your model. Just type in max token count for GPT-4 or GPT-4.5 or GPT-3.5. And you'll see, it'll tell you right there. It's roughly 4 characters per token. So multiply that number by 4, and now you've got your character count. That's maxed.
Interesting. Okay, so I didn't realize that. I knew not to throw all my information in. I learned that early on. It gives you wonky results when you start throwing in too much. But I didn't realize, I didn't think about the token count and how that affects everything as well. It makes sense now that you mention it, just because I remember going through some prompts that eventually it just stopped doing what I wanted it to do. It just kind of freaked out. I was like, oh, fun. Okay, let's start a new one.
Right. And that's part of the prompting deal. Because if you can, there's something that I like to call source material in my prompting. I provide basic training to the AI. I provide a lot of structural pieces or examples of how I wanted to respond. But a lot of my posts have good source material. So being that I like studies and business, I'll take a white paper on leadership, and I'll say, hey, I want you to pull out 4 bullet points from this study that were impactful or were the results or were takeaways for a reader like myself. Then I'll take that information and use it for whatever I want to. But it allowed me to not have to read the whole study to get those 4 bullet points. And that's the kind of stuff we talk about when it comes to the everyday use of AI. We've gotten a lot into the weeds here, but the most important thing is that you find out how you can use AI in your business, in your life, to make yourself more productive. There's a prompt. I just shared it with one of my clients the other day, and not exaggerating, this prompt is probably going to save him between 6 and 10 hours on a single project. And It's not that he hadn't tried to create that prompt. It was that he didn't have the prompt training I had, and he hadn't gotten to the refined prompt that I had built. And that's the kind of thing, if you really pay attention, you can get there. And that could be something as simple as how to write a template email for a prospective client, how to write an email for an HR representative to a team member, how to systematize your SOPs so that you have clear systems for your team, so that if you take vacation, you're not the only one who's left holding the bag trying to answer phones while you're sipping a mocktail on the beach. You can do all of this, and AI can really be an amazing brainstorming partner or an assistant for all intents and purposes. And so Yeah, I would say if you're confused on the AI thing, YouTube is a great resource for anyone. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of AI tips about once or twice a week. If you want to message me on LinkedIn, I'll send you the AI tips that I've got. The reality is, if you're not using AI right now, you need to start. Because if you are someone who's going to be working for about 8 or 9 more years, more than 8 or 9 years, you're going to have to learn to use AI. Like we had to learn Google, like we had to learn Microsoft Office. It's going to be a required skill set on job applications. It's going to be required to promote to those higher levels of your company. It's going to take a couple years to get there, but this is the next foundational skill set that employers are going to be looking for employees. So don't miss that boat. Just go get started. And whether it's just using your own custom GPT or even just the free version of ChatGPT 3.5, you can sign in with Google. You don't got to think about creating a login. Go try it, go use it, go see if it can help you in those different pieces. And if you want help with your business to see how it can scale your efforts, scale your authentic voice, maybe build a chatbot, then you need to talk to an expert. I'm happy to talk to you, but there's plenty of guys out there who are able and willing to help. And this is such a new space. It would be worth investing in the help versus spending in the hours to go out there and really try and understand some of the level that you could go do it on your own. This has taken me a year of almost full-time learning on the side of my full-time business and job to get to the point that I am today. And it's a lot of work, but it is worth it if you can learn it or hire it out.
Absolutely. I love it. And I 100% agree with you. This is the way forward at this point. Especially being in HR, I can tell you it's something that I ask people about in interviews. Not that it's a requirement for jobs or anything like that yet, but there are actually certain jobs that it is a requirement to have. If you're in marketing, you darn well better know about ChatGPT or AI in general, because that's going to help you stand out at this point. Because there's still, as you said, there's so many people who haven't really jumped in on it. There's a lot of people who have, but there's so many who haven't used it to an extent to where they can actually expedite things. At the end of the day, we're trying to save time and save money when it comes to running businesses. Find the most efficient ways to get things done. And that's what AI really helps with. So I've had an absolute blast in this conversation. I love the information. I know you might feel like it was a bit heavy, but I promise you there's going to be so many people who get so many golden nuggets out of this. I'm excited for this to release here. Heck, I'm going to re-listen to it multiple times just because there's information you talked about that I was like, I didn't think about it from that perspective. Let me go deep dive into this and figure out some more stuff. After this call here, I'm going to be hopping on and trying to create some custom GPTs, a little more than what I have. So
nice.
Thank you again for taking the time for this interview. I love this conversation. I could sit here and do this for 2 hours, but obviously no one's going to listen for 2 hours of AI. Let's be real.
Right. One final tip, and this is for our marketing friends out there, or if you're doing this for marketing, do not just let AI create your content for you and post it. People can tell when you're lazy with AI. There's exceptions to that rule when you're using it for cleaning up audio on a podcast or different pieces that's automating what would be rather repetitive tasks. But people can tell when you're putting effort into your marketing. So for marketers, because Jason, you talked about this, for marketers, if you're using AI, use it well, or you're going to get replaced by someone who does. And for business owners out there, just know AI is not going to replace people. People who use AI are going to replace people. And that's going to be the future.
Love it. All right. So before we wrap things up here, I always like to ask just a couple questions. Okay. So with that, I'm going to jump right into it. If we're going to change my question. What is the best piece of advice that you've received?
The best piece of advice I've received is, there's been so many different pieces of advice. The best piece of advice I had received is actually something I had posted on my wall, and it was, in the absence of information, assume the best. As a worrywart, someone who likes to control the pieces of information, I always freaked out if something didn't happen. This came out in my dating relationships before I was married. It came out in in any big decision I was going to make. It was just like, man, this is not going to end well. And I just had that Post-it note up there. You don't have all the information. Think for the best. And most of the time, that has just saved me a tremendous amount of anxiety.
Okay, love it. All right, now the counter to that one. What's some of the worst advice you've received?
I've received some really bad advice too. Short version, I had a gentleman who I considered a coach and a mentor who advised me to spend tens of thousands of dollars on certain types of purchases that didn't benefit me as a person or as a business owner at the time, and ended up slowing down my wealth building and my business building for years to come because I had to pay off something like $45,000 in credit card debt. And so I would say always get a second opinion when it comes to where to spend your money, unless it's from someone who's demonstrated that they're an expert in different pieces like that.
Okay. I like it. I mean, I don't like the fact you went through all that, but at least something good came of it. You got a good life lesson out of it. Sometimes it sucks when you have to learn the hard way.
Most folks got to pay 40 to 60 grand to go to college. I had a fortunate situation for that when I paid a lot less for my college, but I call it my college education. It was just at a higher interest rate. So
fair enough. All right. Final question. What would you consider to be your superpower?
My superpower is helping people take their dreams and make them into actionable plans. I believe that I'm called, if you will, to help others make the progress they want in their life. And it is the thing that brings me the most joy. And so for me, being able to be someone who can take vision and turn it into actionable steps is what I'm good at. It's what I love doing. It's how I help business owners. I happen to use AI to do that a lot of the times, but I've done tons of work on business and marketing consulting for a very long time. And it just comes down to that. How do we take someone's vision, someone's goal, someone's ambition, and turn it into tangible steps they can take?
Love it. It makes sense. Based off of a conversation prior to this and during this interview, I can completely see that being your superpower.
Thanks.
Of course, you're welcome. And thanks again for taking the time to be on here. It's been an absolute blast, and I am so excited to deep dive more into AI on my own terms. And I'm hoping everyone else will as well. But with that, I just want to give everyone a big thank you for tuning in when this episode does release. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button, leave a detailed review. You can also check us out on Instagram, which would be Everyday Elevations. This is where you can get some more exclusive content, some of the latest updates, what's going on with myself and the Everyday Elevations team, and you get a little peek behind the scenes. And I also love for you to just kind of plug your own stuff here too as well, Chad. Where can they find you besides just LinkedIn? Yeah,
go to my website, Chad, M as in Mitchell, Wooters.com, ChadMWooters.com. And that is my site, not to be confused with ChadWooters.com. If you know Chad, I will rebuild his website for free. Okay. We need to find him. But ChadMWooters.com, I've got a blog site. I've got a company site. If you want to build some AI bots, it's all linked on there for me. And if you want to find me, I'd say LinkedIn is probably your best bet, but I'm also on all other social media platforms. I'm happy to connect wherever you'd like to.
All right. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for the time. Again, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hop on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It was a great time.
Of course.